Hello guys, today we'll be covering a 2018 American thriller film called Acts of Violence. As the movie begins, we see the McGregor brothers living together in Cleveland. Declan, the eldest one, is a divorcee. The middle one is Brandon, who is happily married to Jessa, and the youngest, Roman, is engaged to his childhood sweetheart. Mia has grown up together with them, and the elder brothers consider her to be their little sister. Declan and Brandon have served in the military and have made their contribution to the country, while Roman is working in the emergency medical service. But because of his past trauma, Declan frequently visits psychiatrists to seek professional help. He's also quite hot-headed, and due to this, he hurts people around him. A few days before the wedding, Mia picks up Roman and drives to the McGregor's house. After dinner, Brandon and Jessa give the couple airfare for their honeymoon as their wedding gift. Declan shows up only at the end of the day and congratulates Mia, but he cannot guarantee his presence at the main wedding event. Nevertheless, he unintentionally hurt Mia despite her efforts to approach him. Later on, Declan apologizes to Mia via text. That night, Roman goes to a strip club with his brother to celebrate his last few days of singlehood. Soon enough, Brandon sends him off with a bunch of strippers. Meanwhile, Mia is also out with her friends enjoying her bachelorette party. There, Vince and Frank lay eyes on her and approach Mia and her friends. Even though Harley, one of Mia's friends, lets them join in, Mia asks them to leave immediately. When Vince tries to kiss her, she slaps him and this provokes the guys. Right at that moment, Mia leaves the club. Then she calls Roman but couldn't get through. Just when she's leaving him a voice message, Frank forcibly pulls her into the van and drives off. At the stripper club, Roman could no longer withstand the strippers hovering over him, so he gets out of the room and makes his way to the restroom. He checks his phone and sees a voicemail from Mia. He listens to her incomplete voice message and immediately dials her number, but the call gets directed to a voicemail. Immediately, he checks her GPS location. Meanwhile, Brandon thinks that Roman is overreacting. As they drive to Mia's location, Roman contacts Declan. Next, the McGregor brothers arrive at the shown location and are in the standby position. Declan carefully listens to Mia's voice message and hears her scream at the end. Finally, after being certain that Mia has been abducted, he tells Brandon to prep his gun and calls 911 to report their situation. As soon as they see a group of people coming out of the house holding a lady, all three charge towards them. Unfortunately, the girl is not Mia, therefore ordering his brothers to watch over. Declan makes his way into the house. Despite searching the entire house, he couldn't find Mia. However, he does rescue a few girls who were held captive there. By then, the police arrive and take all of them to the station, including the rescued girls. The next morning in the station, we see Detective James Avery in charge of Mia's case. James himself has been working on human trafficking cases for a couple of years. Just recently, he and his team raided a building and found the body of a dead girl. James assures Brandon to do everything within his power to find her. Being scornful, Brandon questions James about his immediate plans of action to find his sister. Calmly, James tries to explain to him that official procedures take time. He also adds that the traffickers switch their victim holding location all the time, which makes their job arduous. Furthermore, James points out that their law-breaking activities from last night and tells them to let them do their job. Back home, Roman is totally devastated, and his older brothers are discussing what to do next. Brandon wants to let the police handle the case, whereas Declan does not want to sit idly relying on the police and suggests finding her themselves. Similarly, Roman is also ready to do whatever it takes to bring her back. A few days later, police have the toxicology report of the dead girl. The report shows traces of carfentanil, which is a synthetic tranquilizer used for large animals. Even though this drug is not meant for human use, the doctor informs James and Brooke that there have been quite a few carfentanil cases in recent weeks. And most importantly, they retrieve a small GPS tracker embedded in the girl's hand. Consequently, Max Livington's name pops up while tracking the influx of carfentanil into the city. James is baffled to hear this name since he's been trying to catch Max for 2 years, but is still unable to gather concrete evidence. He then goes to his superior and reports about Max Livington. Moreover, he presents a small packet of carfentanil and briefs these drugs being found in the bodies of 10 of the recovered trafficking victims. Soon enough, his superior shows his commitment to helping him. One afternoon, Haley is startled on finding Roman and his brothers inside her apartment. They notice visible traces of physical assaults on her body. Eager to find the truth, they ask her about her injuries and inquire about the night they had Mia's bachelorette party. Only after they guarantee her safety does she open her mouth. According to Haley, The guys who Mia had pissed off the other day work as sex traffickers. Firstly, they lure the broken girls who have nowhere to stay, pamper them with luxuries, and make them addicted to drugs. But before those girls could realize their trap, the two guys hand in the girls to their client. Declan promises to punish those guys if she helps them with their plan. With that, she shows them their photos and tips off the bar where they can find them. Somewhere, Mia wakes up with a heavy mind and cries out for help. It turns out they've brought her to a warehouse hideout where they operate their drug-related business. Later on, Vince and Frank come inside her room and try to harass her. She manages to kick Frank and bite Vince, and make her way past the passage, only to get caught by Max. Following Mia, Frank and Vince arrive in front of Max. Looking at a new face, Max asks them where they got her, and upon knowing that they picked her up from a local club, he rebukes them. He's infuriated at them for having the audacity to grab a girl from a public place just when police are at his tail and are raiding his lairs constantly. Hence, he orders his men to shoot them. When they beg him to spare their lives, he instead makes Mia shoot at Frank. The death of Frank serves as a clear warning for Vince. Max then orders him to dump Mia off in Vegas. Nevertheless, he also warns him not to mess up, or else it will be his last time. On the other hand, Declan and Brandon begin training their little brother to save Mia. Declan teaches Roman to efficiently use the gun and hit his target, while Brandon prepares weapons and other necessary equipment. Shortly after the preparation is done, one evening, they wait for Vince to show up at the address given by Haley. As Vince and his men are about to drive away, Roman blocks their path. Just then, Declan appears from the tailgate and shoots at the driver and the one in the passenger seat. Vince and the other try to run away from behind, but Brandon handles them. Meanwhile, Max is reported on the incident with Vince and his other boys. He then demands to tighten his security and hire some professionals. Moreover, he orders his subordinate to find the one responsible and handle them immediately. In the meantime, the McGregor brothers move Vince to the harbor and question him about Mia. Initially, he thinks he's doomed either by them or by his boss, and goes on spewing nonsense about Mia being sent away to the clients. When Declan unzips his jacket to reveal a C4 strapped to his chest and activates its timer, he finally agrees to tell them about Mia's whereabouts. With the ticking time, he reveals his boss to be Max Livington, who will be moving to Vegas along with the girls tomorrow. Roman asks him about Mia's current location, and with less than 10 seconds remaining, he agrees to take them to her. And with that, Declan stops the timer at 1 second remaining. On the contrary, Mia utilizes her surrounding, cuts the rope tying her hands, and pulls out the metal from the bed leg. Furthermore, she uses the metal as a weapon to scrape out the grout around the glass window. On the other hand, Vince leads them to the warehouse at the train yard. As soon as they enter the warehouse, they start to open fire on the people and eventually head toward the basement where she was being held. Upon reaching the room, they find that she has already escaped through the window. Just when they're on their way out of the room, some men block their way. Besides Vince getting killed in the two-way fire, Brandon is also shot. It's now impossible to get out through the same route, so Declan orders his brothers to get out of the warehouse through the window. Before he climbs through the window, he places the bomb on the bed. Then he barely makes it out of the warehouse alive before the explosion. Still in the train yard, Mia sees a jeep and stops it. She barges in and tells the man that she's been kidnapped. The man assures her to take her to the police station and offers her a coat and a pair of boots. But before they could make it out of the train yard, Max's men have come to get her by tracking her GPS. The men collide with the jeep Mia is in and shoots the driver before dragging Mia with them. At the police station, James receives a phone call ordering him to take his hands out of the human trafficking case. All thanks to the existing corruption in the higher-ups of the police department. Apparently, Max has made some deals with the FBI and DEA. At the same time, Brooke comes to report to James about the attack on Max's men outside the bar. When she discreetly asks him if he's been helping them, Brooke implies that he wishes he was. Then he orders her to find them before some other officers do. After getting out of the train yard, instead of going to the hospital, the brothers rush back home only to find the messed-up house and Jessa's cold body. Brandon breaks down into tears at the sight of his dead wife. Soon after, police and an ambulance come to their house. Brooke asks Declan to get into her squad car along with his brother quickly. Then she brings them to James. James informs them of the possibility of them being arrested for breaking the law. They tell James that Max will be shipping the girls and moving his business to Vegas tomorrow. But James regrettably tells them that his hands are bound and that he can do nothing about Max, despite knowing his plan. Even so, he agrees to give them 24 hours to catch Max. The next morning, when Max is moving all the girls to be shipped, A gas smoke declares the war and firing, causing many casualties. In the meantime, inside the shipping container, Mia kicks the box open from the inside and encourages other girls to do the same. A while later, Roman and Brandon open the shipping container, and along with Mia, all the other girls come out. On Declan's cue, James and Brooke, disguised in a mask, enter with a van and rescue the victims. A certain distance from the steel yard, James and the brothers go their separate way. On the way, Declan cut open Mia's hand to take the tracker out. Back home, we see that Mia is traumatized by all the recent events. That night, they light the candles in remembrance of Jessa. Afterward, Declan acknowledges breaking the law in order to save her and calmly explains that they're going to be arrested, but the detective they've been working with will try to reduce their sentence. However, the one to come by their house late at night is not the detective they've been expecting. They're suddenly attacked by firing bullets. They do all they could, but still, Brandon dies after getting shot, and Roman sustains serious injuries. The next morning, the police come and arrest them. James can do nothing for them except watching them being taken away. That very day, he resigns from his post and hunts down Max, and this time shoots him to death. A few years have passed, and we see the McGregor family is together, living happily with little Brandon, the son of Mia and Roman.